Good evening. This is Nisi, reporting live from Asia. Now, as I've been walking around Asia, there is one thing that I have noticed quite clearly is that children are very important. I have seen many children with grandparents, with their parents, but a lot with grandparents, and I've noticed a bonding. And this is one of the things that I'm reporting on tonight. The cognitive and physical development of a child in their early childhood stages, and the bonding and attachment that goes along with that. And also what plays into that as a child is developing, because during this early childhood stage, they're learning speech. They're talking more. They're actually physically able to, instead of just run, they're able to, instead of just walking, they're able to, to run a little bit because their bodies are stretching out. Some of the students, the children still have, at 1 and 2 years old, they still have a little bit of the top heaviness about them, where their heads are a little bit larger and then their bodies. But once their torso starts to stretch out and they get taller, that their body starts to balance out. They are picking up more words. But one of the key things in the development is the idea that you are not just you, that there's you, that the children begin to develop the idea of me and them, where before it is mostly me. So, and the cognitive, they become cognizant of other people's emotions as they grow. One of the researchers have stated that in the writings from Stanrock and Essentials of Life Development, he has stated that the attachments and the stability and the emotional health of a child is directly related to the early childhood relationship and bonding, especially with the mother or the significant caregiver. There have been two trains of thought regarding the early childhood development. There have been two researchers and scientists that have talked about how a child develops. And some of the key points in there, one of the scientists is Paget, and the other one is Wozinski. Now, excuse me if I'm saying that name wrong, but these two had actually separate thought processes regarding the levels of development for a child and what's necessary for that development. Paget says that the student, or the child, can develop by exploration, scientifically developed by exploration, the environment around them. Wozinski states that a child actually learns by being guided by someone else that actually knows more than them. So that's just one of the examples of the differences that these two, the conclusions that they come to regarding a child and their development and how they are growing. During the early childhood development stage, one of the key factors that are happening for a child is the language and thought development. And within the language development, many children at this stage will talk to themselves while they're playing. For instance, if a little girl is playing with her dolly, she'll look at her dolly and say, "Oh, Mama's here," like she has seen her mother do or someone else do. So she'll talk, and they have this self-talk as they're playing. Or if the little boy is playing with blocks or something, they have this talk that happens as they're doing that. And I put this here, I put this here. They're learning, how to use their language and their thinking. Now, the two researchers, again, are different on here. Paget says that when a child is speaking during play, that child is actually egocentric. Now, this is some of the research that he's done and saying that actually a child shouldn't really talk when they're playing. And so that is what I gathered from this research, because he's saying it's egocentric. Now, on this research, one of my thought processes is, how does a child not do that? And if they do it, is it really detrimental to their cognitive development? Now, on the other hand, Vygotsky says that the growth of a child's language and thought process is actually enhanced and developed more because the child is actually speaking the words that they know, or even sometimes things that they may not know. And so these concepts are very interesting because they're so on the different spectrums. Also, during this time, when a child begins to really be cognizant of others' emotions, many things stand out. They start to be aware of why they feel the way that they feel. The older they get, say when they're 4 and 5 years old, or 3 even, they're able to communicate that I'm feeling sad because this or this happened, or I'm feeling mad because he took my toy. So they start to really begin to speak and think. And key for the emotional health of a child is this: the parents are key in the development, the cognitive development of the child, for the emotional health. So as a child is developing, and the cognitive development is really in the hands of the primary caregiver, and that primary caregiver may be the mother and the father at the stage when the child is in that early childhood stage. But then also there becomes some other key factors that players that have roles in this process. There may be grandparents or teachers, and then they're reacting and acting more with their peers as well if they go to preschool and things like that. So the cognitive development of a child, it has been debated much on a lot of different levels. Should we read to a child? Does that help them in their language development cognitively? Or should we sing to a child? How early do we start talking with them? But research has shown, regardless of what is happening in the child's life, it is very important that a child has significant bonding with the mother. The mother is key in the role and the infancy and early childhood stages of development. The research has proved that when a mother has had a stable time with that child, when a child has had that stable bonding time with that mother, the growth and the cognizant development goes at higher rates, and that child is more emotionally stable and mature. So this is Nisi reporting just a little bit on the physical growth and the cognitive growth of children in early development. Thank you for joining us.